Welcome to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. We are counting our days down to Christmas. We're looking forward to those special editions that shows that we're going to be having during the week of Christmas. And we'll give you an insight into the schlep Christmas life, which is pretty crazy, but it'll be a lot of fun, I promise. But we've got a great guest joining us today, someone who I believe will help to save the great state of New York that's been hijacked by these very leftist politicians. So joining me now is New York Congressman and gubernatorial candidate for New York, Lee Zeldin. Thanks so much for joining me.
It's great to be back with you, Mercedes.
So there's a lot going on in New York State, obviously in New York City as well. We really wanted to get your insight. As we know, they're moving fast on these on these mask mandates in the state. We just saw the governor there basically say, look, if you're not going to move forward on these vaccine mandates, you got to start putting on a mask again indoors. Why is there this constant push by these leftist politicians to just try to control their citizens?
Well, for one, as you say, they want to control their citizens. Two is that they've run out of other ideas. They feel like they need to keep coming up with new ideas, and they've put themselves into this box where all ideas have to be related to mandates, threats, fines, firing. They don't have anything else. I remember when the pandemic first hit, and you had people at different levels of government working together, both sides of the aisle, as we're talking about PPE. And then there was the development of and the research related to vaccines. We should be talking now about access to more advanced treatments and therapeutics, but it doesn't fall into that box of mandates, firings, fines, and threats. And unfortunately, the left is using it as an opportunity, as you said, to control more of the populace.
Do you think the American people, and I would say particularly the people in New York, aren't they just getting tired? I mean, I feel like there's a high percentage of people who have been vaccinated who live in New York. They've been following what the governor has told them to do. They have been following, many of them, not all of them, what Dr. Fauci has told them to do. And yet it just seems like it's an endless cycle of mandates.
Yeah, you're right. And New Yorkers all across the state are fed up with it. Last Friday, when Governor Hochul instituted her statewide mask mandate, she even upset the media because she was saying that people were going to be fined, but she wouldn't answer questions as to who are you fining? Are you fining the New Yorker who's not wearing a mask? Are you firing the business? Over the course of the next few days, you had a bunch of counties say, we're not enforcing this. We're not complying with this statewide mask mandate. This is all on top of Bill DeBlasio announcing just a few days earlier a vaccine mandate for all private sector employers in New York City, just days before he leaves office. And on top of that, you just had it go into effect as part of that announcement that everyone over the age of 5 years old has to be vaccinated to be able to eat in a restaurant, to go to a museum, to be able to go to a movie theater and more. Yeah, people have had enough.
So you actually tweeted this out. Worst mayor in America, Bill DeBlasio's latest Overreach launched. This was today, which would have been in the last few days. Ordering children over 5 to be vaccinated, to eat in restaurants, go to movies, visit museums, and more. De Blasio may be the worst mayor to ever serve in any U.S. municipality in the history of our country. I mean, what I don't understand, help me here, what I don't understand is in these final days of the de Blasio reign, what's his point? What's his point by pushing forward these vaccine mandates? He did it first to the private companies. Now he's obviously going after our children. Why?
So he's a lame duck, leaving in just a few days. Bill de Blasio believes that Bill de Blasio knows best. He's anti-business. He is someone who's not that bright. He wants to institute more control in his final days. He's tightening his grip on power. He's not ready to let it go. He's even talking about, as soon as he leaves City Hall, that in January he's going to start traveling the state because he's seriously considering running for governor of New York. But I would say it's just a combination of a number of factors of a far left lame duck mayor who thinks that he knows best and he doesn't care about the impacts on business. And he's done this to many aspects of the quality of life in New York. And it's not just the economic and the freedom impacts. It's been on the education impacts. It's been on the public safety impacts, which everyone who are watching your show here loyally, they've been seeing it on the news with these cashless bail stories.
Let me ask you, what are your thoughts about DeBlasio running? Does he even have a chance to win the Democratic primary? I know you've got one of the attorneys, one of the primary attorneys, they're also thinking about running. I mean, that would make for a very interesting of who's going to be the more radical Democrat gubernatorial candidate.
So there's one part of me that says that I would absolutely love to be running against Bill DeBlasio because we would crush him in November of 2022. The realistic part of me says that even a whole lot of Democrats don't like Bill de Blasio at this point. I mean, he's the type of guy at this stage of his political career where he can go to an NYPD cop killer funeral and you'll have a whole bunch of NYPD officers turning their backs on him. He could get into his car, drive down the block to a BLM rally, and they're turning their backs on him as well. So I'm not sure what kind of base support this guy is rolling into a governor's race with.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's going to be intriguing to see who can win that primary. But we're going to keep a close eye on that. I do want to go back to the vaccine mandates. One of the tweets you put out: government should promote early access to advanced therapeutics over obsession with more mandates, lockdowns, threats, fines, and firings. Government should respect freedom and ensure politics follows the science and not the reverse. I thought this was such an excellent tweet because I think this is the biggest issue we have right now with COVID-19, with the Omicron variant. We're already hearing that Cornell University, they ended up sending their students home to go remote so that they can take their finals at home because of the Omicron variant, which scientists are saying it's a more mild variant. So I think it really drives me crazy where the politics is taken over when it comes to this COVID debate. And it's not just happening in New York. I do think that in New York it's worse than what we're seeing almost nationally. But the mere fact that people are still listening to Dr. Fauci, by the way, he only goes on what I would say are the liberal media outlets to speak to his audience that still slightly respects him. But I mean, what do you think? Where do you think this all ends? I mean, where does this all end? Is it going to be the rejection of the American people saying no more? We're not going to put up with this anymore. I mean, is New York going to wake up and say we can't continue down this pathway?
That happened on November 2nd in many ways here in New York while everyone was paying attention to a huge win in the race for governor of Virginia. In New York, you had the Nassau and Suffolk District Attorney, Nassau County Executive, Suffolk County Legislature, New York City Council seats, a whole bunch of towns and seats all across the rest of the state, all flipping from blue to red. It's not just that the pendulum's going to swing. In many respects, it's already swung. It's not that the political earth is about to move under us. In many respects, it's already moved. And you have people on the left who are trying to instill fear. They see a new variant and they want the population to be frightened by it. And we're seeing the early reports, as you reference, and hopefully this is the way it turns out, that it's a milder strain. How about we all, as Americans, celebrate the potential, the possibility that this next variant might be milder? How about we say that's a good thing? But instead, they're using it to instill fear.
We've seen Joe Biden's numbers really plummet. I mean, you're seeing due to a variety of, I think, between domestic policy failures and foreign policy failures. Obviously, Kamala Harris being the most unpopular vice president, basically, that we've seen in our lifetime. Do you think he can salvage his presidency at this point?
I don't think he knows how to. I don't believe that he's in control. There was a point in time when the crisis in Afghanistan started to get worse, where I was wondering whether or not it was keeping him up at night. And then I realized in the days to follow, I don't even think it was keeping him up during the day. And the crises piling up from Afghanistan to the southern border, the dysfunction of trying to pass trillions of dollars of new taxes and spending, the supply chain crisis, spinning reality with inflation, trying to make it seem like it's transitory and it's only going to be here for a little bit while. In order to actually tackle these challenges, you have to be up to the job. You have to be able to confront reality. You need to be surrounded by good people who are working hard, good chemistry, and they just don't have a lot of the ingredients. There's a lot of comparisons between November 8, 22 versus November of 2014, and people wondering if it's going to be as much of a red wave. It might be even more of a red wave because back in '94, I mean, Bill Clinton was younger. He's more on top of his game, smarter. And I feel like this president just isn't up for whatever unknown challenges are still ahead.
Right. And then we're also seeing the fiasco happening with the January 6th committee. They call it a bipartisan committee. I think it fails by all means. We know it's more of a I hate Trump committee. We saw that the House voted on holding Mark Meadows in criminal contempt. Where does this end, or will it end? When it comes to the January 6th committee, they're obviously going to put out a report. I'm sure it's going to be horrific. I know they've gone after so many of our friends that had nothing at all in any way to do with the horrific insurrection that happened on Capitol Hill, but they still are pursuing this as really their only, I think, political tactic.
Yeah, we were just talking about all the challenges facing our country right now, and so much of the oxygen is being sucked up inside of Capitol Hill. Left-wing national media. This is all they want to talk about. While the average American is saying, well, what about crisis A, B, C, and D? What about our wallets, our safety, our freedom, our kids' education? Can we talk about any of this? Where does it end? In one respect, it's November 8, 22, when voters have a say as to whether or not there should be a balance of power in Washington, whether the gavels are flipping over in D.C., what the agenda should be going forward after that. One thing that might happen, possibly, before November 8, 22, is that the Democrats realize that this obsession that they have been narrowly focused in on is going to cost them in the polls. Maybe they change their ways. However, there's a part of me that doubts that because the people who are pushing this are not clear-headed. I mean, in a way, they're broken, and they're just not seeing it with clear-eyed, not just what's right in front of them, but also, what's the target 100 meters out or 200 meters out. They're not seeing this multidimensionally, so they might just hold on to it straight through the long.
Well, I do want to bring up the disgraced Andrew Cuomo. You had a great tweet out. Andrew Cuomo signed a $5.1 million self-congratulatory book deal while covering up the true consequences of his deadly nursing home order. He shouldn't see one red penny from this absurd book deal, and this should be just the beginning of the price he pays for his corruption. I can't only imagine how horrific people must feel in New York, knowing that their governor just failed them, ex-Governor Cuomo. What are your thoughts on what if in fact everything that we've seen, his failures, will impact the next gubernatorial race in New York?
Yeah, no, certainly people are upset with the state of play right now in New York. They want a balance of power. They're hitting their breaking point and fleeing, and it's a whole lot of different policies and style and character of the Cuomo-Hochul administration. Now his lieutenant is the governor, and Kathy Hochul, when she was the lieutenant governor, she was silent from scandal to scandal, and she revealed for us, was she complicit or out to lunch? It's her choice. There's no third option. But I think that voters are looking at not just the deadly nursing home order and cover up and all the scandals that were bringing down Andrew Cuomo, but they're also looking at the policies from cashless bail to wanting kids to not, instead of being stuck in, to have access to a better quality education. Those are just an example of two of many issues unrelated to the scandal, but really tied to the way that Andrew Cuomo approached governance.
So just final question. What's your message as you're going out talking to the people in New York about why you are the right person to be the next governor of New York?
We have to save our state. It's not just a slogan. The breaking point is for individuals, families, communities, for our entire state. We want to fight to protect your wallets, your safety, your freedom, and your kids' education. We want a balance of power. Instead of seeing Republicans on their heels and losing in places like Georgia, what I'm looking forward to November 8, 22, is that while we are seeing Democrats on their heels and losing in places like New York, We're flipping the House and the Senate, taking the gavels out of the hands of Pelosi, Schiff, Nadler, and Waters. And in New York, we're making history in a way that 40 years from now, they'll be talking about this win for governor of New York. We will win this race because we have to win this race.
Well, let me tell you, Lee, no one thought we were going to win Virginia last year. And the tide turned. It really did turn in our favor here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I expect the same thing in New York. Let's not give up hope. You're the right candidate, the right man for this job as we enter into next year. So we want to thank you so much for joining us, New York Congressman and gubernatorial candidate for the state of New York, Lee Zeldin.
Thank you, Mercedes.
And we'll be right back after the break.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Schlapp with CPAC, and it's my privilege to tell you that we've got a very important project that we've just announced, the First Amendment Fund. It's a brand new fund that we've created through our criminal justice reform efforts to raise money to take care of you, Americans who are being canceled and desecrated out there around the country. We know it just happened in Virginia, where parents were called domestic terrorists by the Biden administration, where people who just want to express their political views are canceled left and right. Now we have this terrible specter of a vaccine mandate where you can lose your job or be prevented from going to a restaurant or go to school according to your vaccination status. These are all the things that are happening in this country that are making people realize that America is in a fight to defend the principles that have made her great. If you want to be involved in this important effort, please go to conservative.org, click the link for the First Amendment Fund. Please donate to this C3 to help these victims across the country, including those who are just involved in politics, to make sure they have the legal representation they need to be able to live their great American life.
But this is not about a real investigation. This is about a real political narrative. We see the Democrats really having another witch hunt. And let me be clear, this is not about Mark Meadows. This is about a president that they don't like his policies, and they want to intimidate every supporter, every person that was willing to stand up and say, I voted for Donald Trump. That's what this is all about.
So Mark Meadows says it right. They're going after not just Mark Meadows and Stephen Miller and some of the folks who were part of the Trump campaign and the White House. This is about going after each and every one of us. Anyone who has supported Donald Trump in the past or really thought that he was the right president for this time. And I got to tell you, it's scary. It's an outrage, and it must be stopped. And this committee is going to do whatever they can to bring Donald Trump down. That is their ultimate goal. And they're going to use as many people who were the president's close advisors to accomplish that goal. It's the only thing the Democrats can run on. They don't have an agenda. Actually, I should say they do have an agenda. Their agenda is one of a radical agenda that, of course, would lead to higher taxes, less job creation, more inflation, less job security, and the mere fact is the indoctrination of our children, which we must put a stop to. So we'll be watching this very closely as we move ahead. As you know, here at CPAC, we've built out our First Amendment Fund. We launched that fund to help anyone out there who is at this point trying to ensure that we can protect their constitutional rights of freedom of speech, and also help ensure that we stop the Democrats from persecuting many of these individuals who have been brought forth and subpoenaed by the January 6th Commission. So we want to thank you for your support. You can contribute to conservative.org. I have to say we're working with lawyers like Matt Whitaker, the former Attorney General, and really trying to make sure that we take care of these individuals who are being persecuted, who are being intimidated to try to get information on how they can take down Donald Trump. And this expands beyond even the January 6th committee. These are about parents out there who are speaking up on behalf of their children against critical race theory, against gender confusion, that are basically being treated like domestic terrorists by the left. And so our goal is to ensure that those people are protected as well. We stand together, we stand strong, and as you know, we enter this Christmas season, that we spend time with family. We also take a step back to remember why we're here. Why we're here at this moment, to ensure that we can be together as a family and as a country, that we love America for all of its beautiful freedoms, and that we're able to be part of that journey to protect the freedoms from the radical socialists and the communists who really are focused on taking down America and changing this great land that we love. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching. And remember to follow us on social media. I'm at Mercedes Schlapp. Matt, of course, is incredibly entertaining at mschlapp, and also follow us at CPAC. And remember to get your CPAC tickets. February 24th through the 27th, we will be in sunny Orlando, Florida. I cannot wait. We're going to have all the big speakers, great policy discussions and intellectual debates. And we want you to be part of it because, as you know, the left might think that they're woke, but the American people have woken up. Thanks so much, and thanks for watching. God bless.